terms of what we did last time?
We started with introduction of talent management and which all areas it covers under talent management. What I
Okay,
recollect.
yeah, good. So we started with an introduction, and also we spoke about a particular survey details in terms of how widespread talent management practices are in the corporate world, and the data was based on the Western experience, but we found that talent management is not something that is there in all companies, and not something which is very well planned in some companies.
Right.
So it is something that happens when there is a need, but otherwise probably not too many companies have this as part of their annual priorities or plan 2 to 3 years in advance. So uh, so that's how it is, but it's a very critical part of any mature company. If people wish to have a mature organization, the people dimension of any organization is absolutely key. And if the senior people, if the high potential in an organization are not planned for properly, then any organization runs a big risk. And particularly today, when we talk about a time that there is a war for talent, you know, the term that is used is there is a war for talent. So if there is a war, then it has to be planned with, it has to be fought with all the required planning, with right insights, with the right tools and techniques, and that will allow any organization to retain a people advantage. So that's where talent management really comes in. So today we will look at some basic talent management practices, 1 or 2 tools, and then we will do some brainstorming. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So like last time we were talking about talent management. The first thing that if we were to look at talent management as a process, the first is, after we have decided our talent strategy, is to identify your talent needs. Any organization uh, will have specific kind of needs. For example, one company, an engineering company, it has different kinds of needs. One need is having a large number of civil engineers. Now, we all know that a certain percentage of civil engineers, if they do not get promoted, they tend to become expensive resources. And of course, with due cause, people leave an organization also. So a certain percentage has to be recruited from the best engineering colleges, from engineering come management colleges. So one needs to identify what talent needs can be freshers, what can be mid-level, who are your high potential. So multiple needs are there. So for example, new roles. You may be a growing company, and you have new projects, new assignments, new roles coming up. So what are those roles? Do you have a plan to fill them internally, or do you wish to hire talent from outside? There are new kinds of work that is coming up. So what are the new kinds of leadership roles that are there? or what new kind of leadership is required, even from the existing leaders. For example, I worked in a company which was a old economy company, which was a very old world company, which was not like these IT companies, which are fast, nimble, growing quickly. But one of their main values was how to be agile. So when I asked the HR head that, what do you mean, like you're saying agile, but the company is such a sleepy, easygoing company. We have no fire in us. So he says that is exactly what we want. And that's why we have that value, because we want our leadership to have these new values in place, new orientation. So your talent may be old, but their orientation could be new. Of course, new skills. What are the new skills that any company requires, and there should be a skill audit as well. A skill audit in terms of a skill matrix, or a skill audit that you find out which skills do I need, and in comparison to that, what do I have. Anybody familiar with a skills audit or a skill matrix?
I think that is describing, giving a job description and levels on one skill, and job description with details and competencies, not just the description but also competencies on others.
Yeah, yeah, you're right to an extent. So identify all the skills, then what levels of each of those skills do you have, and then you compare it to what you need. For example, I may have 25 project managers in the country, but out of that, maybe 18 are comfortable with MS Project, while 7 of them have know some other software, and they are not comfortable, or they have a passing knowledge of the software. So a skill matrix will immediately throw up, that this is a requirement, and that now 7 people need to be trained on MS Project. So therefore, the new skills required would be that. So then, very importantly, you have to do people planning, and maybe when your annual operating plan is happening, or you're doing a budgeting exercise at the beginning of the year, you can plan how many people would you need, at which level, with what compensation, what is your compensation budget, what percentage does that comprise of your overall cost structure. So these are some basic questions that you need to ask when you are identifying the talent needs of an organization. So moving on, next question you ask yourself is that, okay, this is what I need for the organization for the coming year, but what is it that I have currently as compared to what I need? So do I need more people? Do I need new leaders? There are skills which are missing which need to be plugged. So those are some questions we need to ask ourselves when we are doing the planning for talent. uh, Next is, how do you design your recruiting and hiring plans? So there could be new roles which need to be filled. There could be vacancies of backfills. These are not new roles, these are backfills. So these are important questions that you need to ask. Now,
So,
one big
so is the
yeah,
process of talent management, or are these models of talent management that we are discussing?
this is really process. We will discuss a model next week.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yeah. So now a big question which always is there, whether it is talent management or in other verticals also, is the make or buy question. So what do we mean by that?
Made in India or outside?
Well, not really. Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean, depends
basically
on where you're
set
getting
up
your talent
something
from.
inside your organization, or you get it imported from outside, is what it means.
Okay.
Sir, would you please repeat the question?
Okay. So one question, Yamini, that we face in talent management is the make or buy question. Is to make it or buy it?
It is about training and developing the talent from the inside available pool or from recruiting the fresh talent. Is it
Yes.
this?
Yes, that's right. Thanks, Yamini. So yes, you're absolutely right. So uh, the question that always comes up is that whether you want to grow internal people, or would you want the new roles to be filled by people from outside. Now, there are implications of both these decisions. If you are filling internally, then there would be a skill gap which you need to plug. You need to give them a certain amount of time lag, which you have to accept, because people cannot overnight grow into a new role. They would take some time, so there would be a time lag. And if you get from outside, chances are that people will take time to get used to your culture, to your way of working. Secondly, when you are getting talent from outside, it could also be expensive, because typically you would be taking talent which is 20 to 30% more than whatever their last salary drawn was. Third would be, there would be an implication in terms of motivation level, because if people see that they are not being grown internally, and new roles or existing backfill is being filled by talent from outside, there could be a level of demotivation. People will ask, why am I not getting promoted? Why are they getting people from outside? I was a senior manager in a very large company, and I was expecting growth. And then one day I'm told that this very senior lady will be joining as AVP, and you will be reporting to her. So when I interacted with her, I realized that she was not comfortable in making a single PPT slide, or comfortable in doing Excel reports. So I kept wondering to myself, why have they hired her from outside when I could have done a better job in that role? So it was quite frustrating for me. Of course, she was a more mature person. She was, she understood uh, that particular department with more experience and insight. So at that time, I didn't understand all that. I would just look at the PPT skills and say that, hey, I'm so much better. So why is this person here? So there would be a lot of heartburn in the organization when you take talent from outside. So that is a uh, delicate walk that people have to do in terms of whether they get talent from outside or develop it internally. So if you have to do it internally, then again, you have to be very careful in identifying who are the right people for this role. And then you develop that talent, because everybody may not be an immediate right fit. So you have to mentor them, you have to coach them, you have to help them come up the learning curve. So those are things which need to be done. So generally, these are some statistics. So 19% tend to hire talent from outside, but typically for key positions, 3% develop internally, and 8% tend to focus on retaining. So this is part of our larger survey, but I'm just giving you some important statistics. 8% retain high performers. So any large talent change that happens, people tend to retain at least their high performers. They develop people, and of course also they hire talented people from outside. And generally a mix and match of both is advisable, because when you get talent from outside, you get to see what are the best practices in the industry, what are the other competitive competing companies doing. So there is always an input. At the same time, there also needs to be retaining and growing your talent, and we will talk more about top talent retention later on. So now during talent management, one of the critical things
Sir, one question here.
right.
What is about this three comes 30%. So what is remaining 70% do?
So this is basically I was talking. This is taken from a survey which is on large scale talent changes that take place in an organization. So when there is a for example, software companies, then
I understood this,
yeah.
but now 70% are remaining. What they are doing?
So they are hiring talent from outside.
This is also higher talent people, 19%.
Yeah, so there is campus hiring, lateral hiring. So basically this is, yeah, maybe I should get all the other details also. This is just these 3 percentages are not making sense, but basically this was in the context of a software company where you have for example, let's say Cognizant or Wipro. So if one looks at their hiring year on year, you will see that 70-80% hiring happens from campuses, and rest of the hiring is their supervisory positions, retaining the programmers who grow to the next level, or uh, lateral hires. So that is the context. Okay, Rakesh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so one of the things one needs to do, in talent management, which at times is not done the way it should be, but the leaders of the organization, of any organization, need to be involved in this. It should not be left only to HR, or HR leaving it to the talent acquisition manager. That should not be the case. And the leaders should be actively involved in the talent management process. So, but at the same time, it's important that what the leader does is more of a strategic intervention, not helping them in their plans or their day-to-day strategy and things like that, but where the leader kind of gives strategic insights into how the talent acquisition plan should be, what should be the cost effectiveness, what should be the sources of getting talent from outside, etc. So leaders need to be there. At the same time, they don't need to get involved in the day-to-day affairs, but they need to be the motivators, the overall people who approve or tweak the talent management plans. So basically, leaders need to be involved in some way, and need to uh, be able to see how aligned the talent plan is with the overall business plan, because the talent plan and the business plan need to be talking to each other. For example, if I say the business will be growing 10%, and I am, let's say this is 2021, we are sitting in March and we are planning for the next financial year, which starts in 1st of April. And I'm saying that I will grow the company by 12% on revenue. So what should be the strategy for talent management?
So can you repeat the question, please?
Shivani. So I'm saying that I want to grow this company, and like we are in March, and we are doing a annual operating plan for the next financial year, and we are saying that uh, today we are at a revenue of 1,000 crores, and we want to grow 12%. Okay, so uh, which means I want to be 11-20 crores next year, at the end of next year. So what should my talent strategy be? what are the some of the things that I need to look out for, so that's the question.
So Ketu, yeah. So
Yes,
one
yes.
one thing is where would this growth be coming from? So which particular areas, and in that area, do we have requisite talent already there in our organization or not? If not,
anything from here,
how do we?
they will also throw away because it's a house where this. अभी it's good actually. Like पहले कभी तो खाना था ना, I have to discard. They will not take home or eat. They will just throw away.
Hi, Sonal, are you saying something?
Sonal, can you mute yourself?
Okay, so Ketu, go ahead.
Yeah. So to look first, we need to look into which area is this growth would be coming from, and in that area, do we have the requisite talent available? And if not, do we need to hire from outside, or do we need to groom people from inside? So that's one point which is coming to my mind.
Yes, very good. Anything else?
We can train people on if any particular skill set is required. We can train people on that.
Yes, Shivani, very good.
Before that, our first thing that we need to find out is what is this incremental uh, talent required. Can we do it with the current talent, the growth rate, or do we need any increment in the talent in way of numbers or in way of uh, skills? That should be the first thing, the gap, or
Yes,
what is it required. That analysis is the base for taking any further decisions of training or not training.
just say that again.
So
Just say that again, the last.
the incremental growth, like you are 10%, but what is the incremental requirement from the HR part in terms of numbers or in number of skills or in terms of skills? Because just because we are growing by 12% doesn't translate into an increase in HR. So first we have to identify this, and then we can think of strategies to meet that, overcome that gap.
Right, Benita. So, see, if any company is going to grow 10% on top line, so then chances are that some new people will definitely be required. Now, like Suketu said, that we would need to see for which skills do we need people. There could be some new skills which are getting added. For example, we may need data analysts, we may need business intelligence professionals. So we may need to add some headcount over there. Secondly, we also need to see that currently how are we placed in terms of headcount. Some companies are uh, they have excess headcount. Some companies are actually short of headcount. So do we have excess, or do we have a shortage already? So if you have a shortage, then you have to have a plan for talent acquisition, which is going to be on a larger scale, because you have to fill existing positions and then also plan for growth. If you have excess capacity, then maybe your planning can be more economical, smaller plan, because you already have excess capacity, and you may want to align them to the right positions and right opportunities. So therefore, your growth, like all of you rightly said, we have to see where the growth is coming from. Then we have to look at the existing situation, and then we have to say, okay, the go forward plan would be X. And as we can imagine that all the 10% growth will not come in the first quarter or the second quarter. It will be staggered across the 12 or the 4 quarters. And therefore, your hiring plan, your talent development plan will also need to be aligned in terms of, how are the the business ups and downs concerned. So if you are growing some people internally, then and you want to ensure that they have they have been grown so far in the right way, and some additional training is required, you need to ensure that that training gets closed maybe in quarter 1 or quarter 2, depending on when exactly you need them in the new positions. So if it is quarter 3, then ideally you should finish your training by quarter 2, so that quarter 3 you are ready with this talent. So therefore, all these questions need to be figured out when we are talking about matching the business with your talent management plan. Okay. So moving on, you know, talent management is all about matching the right people with the right skills in the right roles. So what are these? For example, you can have cultural skills, financial skills, sales skills, collaboration skills. So these are all, different kinds of skills that you are looking for. And any organization, especially organizations which are more mature and which have well developed processes, would have tools and techniques of filtering people at the entry level, and also being able to rare these skills in them, as per requirement in the organization. So key experiences, of course, goes without saying. People need to have the right experience. So these are, some very critical inputs that go into your talent plan. So people nowadays use assessments extensively, and you have assessments which are used at a recruiting stage, or which are used to evaluate existing talent, and find out successors. And both of this, if you use assessments, what is the advantage of using assessments? Anybody would like to take a guess?
It's always good to check in between whether we are going in a right direction or not. In case if we are going in a wrong direction, we can correct ourselves at the right time before it's too late.
Okay, good. Anybody else would like to add?
Assessment means whether there is any skill gap. So performance gap, actually assessment of performance. Then if there is any gap, expected performance between expected performance and actual performance, then that should give us, thereafter we can look into that, whether there is any upskilling, re-skilling requirement.
Okay, good. Okay.
Also depends
Sir,
on what
I am not able to understand this picture also.
it could be, sir, that we are also assessing for whether we are in tune with the business model or not. So if the business is about, upscaling or acquiring new ideas, then we want people from outside. If it is for continuity and the business policy or the shared value of the business is that we want internal recruitments, then having a successor is more important. So depending on what are the values of the business and what is important to the business, we have to design the assessments, and that is the basis on which I think.
Right, Benita.
Sir, I am not able to understand this diagram.
So Rakesh, these are basically, the usage of assessments, and where all assessments tend to be used more. So if we divide them between using them at a hiring stage, or using them for talent management and succession planning. So it is a divide between that. So basically, uh, assessments tend to be used more at a initial screening stage, and less at a within the organization, in terms of using it for gauging the talent of your existing pool or identifying a successor. So that is the idea.
And sir, what is this retain higher profits?
So if you use assessments, then it's a projection that you are likely to be far more profitable. It's 0.25x more profitable for organizations which use formal assessments.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So
But sir, this is in graphical presentation. There should be some homogeneity that means graph is not represented in the same manner. So 75%, 24%, then 2.5.
yes, I agree that this is not really a graph. This is more of a graphic. So I agree with you that it's not really a graph, but it's basically throwing up some numbers. So don't see it as a formal graph. These are just percentages, okay? And a suggestion that an organization which uses assessments tends to be more profitable because now why I ask this question is assessments tend to, you are right, all of you, in terms of the observations you shared, but uh, in addition to that, assessments are basically formally tested scientific tools. So for example, I want to find out, which, if I have 10 people in the team and now I want to align them to a sales process. So if I use a tool in terms of gauging their sales capability, one is I know all 10 of them and I think or I guess and I say that maybe 3 of them or 5 of them can do selling. Or I use a scientifically proven assessment tool and that tells me that yes, 5 of them are good to go for sales, but they may not necessarily be the 5 that you thought are the people who are good at sales. So basically, assessment, what it does is it's already a fully developed tool which helps you to do what you're trying to do intuitively. So you remove the intuition and the subjectivity from the process and you bring in a scientific way of doing it. So therefore, when you do this, you chances are that you will be more effective. So I don't know, you may have experienced many assessment tools, like some years ago, Wipro used to use a tool called Pappy. So what Pappy did was basically it would tell you, what are your developmental needs. So do you are you task focused? Are you people focused? Are you do you have a sense of urgency or not? Are you a person who closes assignments or leaves them incomplete? So a lot of data comes up. And this assessment happens within a day or two of your joining the organization. And once they have this data about you, it is not used to accept or reject a candidate. It is used only to develop that candidate further. So they know from day one that you need these interventions. And in the next 12 months, they will ensure that you go through those interventions. So basically, it's a scientific way of understanding talent and then using the corrective measures to address those gaps which come up. How many of you have gone through some sort of assessments and undergone some psychometric instruments?
I have undergone with Mr. TV Rao.
Okay, very good. Which instrument?
That time they did not tell, but it was a 3-day this thing, combination of many.
Okay. Okay.
Because our organization did not send to learn this assessment, but they tested us for that. So the results were known, but not the process.
Okay.
We have undergone online disc, and debrief was done in person.
Okay, very good, Benita. Okay, so great. So Rakesh and Benita have gone through, these assessments, and these are generally very structured. Like for example, Benita mentioned DISC. So DISC is a tool which was developed in the 1930s, and then it became, then it matured a bit more, and now it's a very comprehensive tool. And they're also tested for statistical validity. Okay, there is a psychometric, a statistical tool called the Cronbach coefficient. And the Cronbach coefficient tells you how logical the tool is, and anything above 80 is good. So this tool is at 85 or something like that. So these tools are very effective, and assessments, so they do not always have to be a psychometric assessment. They could even be assessments that you develop internally, but they should be well structured and addressing the need of your organization. Okay, so I will move on. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, next is the employee development programs. Now, this is a very critical part of learning and development. And learning and development is what comes in to bridge the talent gap. So if you have a certain expectation from your employees, and they do not meet those expectations, so that is where learning and development comes in. So learning and development could be functional skill programs, or it could be behavioral leadership, managerial skill development programs. So this helps the company keep up with change. As we all know that today, the thing which is permanent is change, and every company has to change quickly. Every company needs a versatile workforce, a resilient workforce, given that we are living in very unstable times. So L&D makes a big difference in helping the company change. Uh, the earlier I was giving the example of the engineering company. So that engineering company had about 5,000 employees, and they made every employee go through a one-day workshop on the company's values, so that people understand that the company is changing and the company has a new orientation. So L&D plays a very critical role in that. As I mentioned, L&D also covers functional training. So you may want to use it to ensure that people understand the latest technology. They are able to use the company platforms effectively, and they are able to leverage the advantages and the efficiency that comes with technology. And of course, stay ahead of competition. So those are, some of the things in a nutshell. Those are some of the things that L&D does through employee development programs. Of course, increase job satisfaction. This is very critical. And when people undergo training, do you think the satisfaction level improves?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Shivani, why do you think it improves?
People feel more valued and feel more confident when they are being trained on certain skill set, or be it what they actually need during their work.
Yes, good. So it helps in two ways. One, people learn a new skill, and people feel that they are more empowered because they have a new skill. Second is, it also sends out a message to them that the company cares for their development. And that is very important. People feel motivated and people feel invested in. So, so therefore, L&D plays a very important role in this. Have you heard of the Hawthorne experiments with lights, uh, which happened in the US? Anybody?
Sir, please repeat. I could not get it.
Have you heard of the Hawthorne Experiments? Hawthorne. There was a place in Ohio in the US where an experiment was done in terms of changing the lighting level of the workers' floor.
Sir, I may not know that I have read the same thing, but I have read one case study where the ambience and this improvement in the work environment has reflected in higher efficiency and better belongingness.
Yes, very good, Rakesh. And what was the reason? How did their productivity increase?
It was in that study it was related to that there are some things like physical space of a person. If that is physical space person is not comfortable, then he does not know, but he feels suffocated and stressed. So that stress causes anxiety and other issues that inter employee relationship and other things, they start getting deteriorated. So that is what something, because it was a long time ago I read. This is what I recall.
Okay, so yeah, so that could be so, but I'm actually referring to another experiment which happened in the 1930s, which was similar to what you are mentioning. But over here, what happened was workers used to sit on the floor and they used to work, and there was light on top of the floor. Now, the workers were divided into two groups. One set of workers, their lighting was improved for them, and another set of workers, they continued to work in the old level of lighting. Now, after 3 months or 6 months, it was discovered that people who had the new lights, they were more productive as compared to the old set of people who were continuing in the existing situation. So the people who were more productive, they were interviewed by the researchers, and they were asked that, when the lighting changed, you were more productive. So does that mean that earlier you were not able to see properly, and now with the lighting you were able to see properly, and you were able to be more productive? Is that the reason? So the workers said something surprising. They said that no, that is not the reason. We could see quite well even in the old light. But when the lighting was changed for us, we got the message that the organization cares for us. And we had to repay that care with whatever we could do. And therefore, perhaps we were motivated to be more productive. So, so that was a great insight into people's productivity and how you manage the productivity in people.
Sir, similar thing has happened in our organization LIC. When this privatization came, then metro branches offices were made AC, and ambience was improved to meet the competition. And
Okay.
it was observed that the behavior of the employees became more sophisticated in those uh, places. And finally, what has happened that LIC then more or less has converted all the branches in same MBS, looking at the betterment.
Okay, that's wonderful. Uh, Great. Thanks for sharing that experience, Rakesh. Yes, exactly. That is what I'm talking about. That when you give the message that the company cares for you, then people also reciprocate and feel more motivated, and therefore they tend to do more and are more productive. So that was the message of that experiment, and I think the same applies in what Rakesh mentioned in LIC, that the air conditioning made a big difference, and people immediately their habits changed, and they could compete with the private sector. So that's a very good observation, and I've seen that in banks also, in PSU banks. Maybe 10 years ago, suddenly all of them, many of them, started improving their office environment. And earlier it used to be, all files lying all over the place. There would be no uh, glass partitions, people all sitting together. But I saw in a branch of UCO Bank, which is near my house, They changed everything. They made it nicer, cleaner office, very good air conditioning. People had small cubicles to sit in, and gradually the whole environment of the office changed. So great point, Rakesh. Thanks. Okay, and when you, the last but not the least about learning and development, when you have effective learning and development programs, very often you are able to attract good talent. One reason is that people are not only looking for money or growth, but people nowadays are also looking for learning. And any company that invests or is known to invest in the learning of their employees is always a plus in the eyes of employees or potential employees. For example, GE is not known to pay more than most other companies in their space does. They are not very good paymasters, or at least that's how it used to be. But the kind of investments they would make on training their employees was enormous. So once you are inside the company, you may feel that I'm not being paid very well, but the kind of investments they would make on your training would make you feel that it's worthwhile. Maybe pay can be slightly less, but the amount of learning that I'm undergoing is exponential, and therefore I would like to stay and learn more rather than explore opportunities outside. So therefore, L&D plays a very critical role in all of this. Another aspect of talent management, which is very critical, and we will look at it in more detail later on, is succession planning. So I think we had discussed last time as well. There are some positions which are absolutely critical for an organization. Not only the CEO, CFO, CMO, but also many other positions in an organization. For example, um, some critical people in the sales team, then some critical people in procurement team. These are all very critical positions. And how you ensure that there is business continuity, for suppose if somebody leaves, that is very important. So therefore, you have to identify the critical positions in senior leadership, mid-level management, and positions which require unique skills. For example, uh, you know I worked in an organization where there was a lady who was a social media expert, and she was part of the marketing team. But she did a brilliant job, ensuring that there was a social media presence of the company in all platforms, Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. And so it was a very unique skill she had. And when she left, they got a replacement, but it could never be the way she used to drive that. So therefore, critical skills need to be identified, and you need to plan for these skills. Also, positions which require specific kind of knowledge. This is again very, very important. For example, your legal advisor, so he or she may not be very senior in the organization, but a very critical role nonetheless. So therefore, your succession planning has to ensure that the legal advisor, suppose she leaves, how will you ensure that there is business continuity? So there are many ways of doing succession planning. You can identify people who are their backups of the critical positions, their strengths, development areas, and their applicable experience. Or you can, even as a talent recruiter, you can do headhunting, which is targeted recruitment from the market. Even if people are not required, as a good talent acquisition manager, you need to be aware of who are the right talent in the market. So internally as well as externally, your succession plan has to be ready. And if internally, then one good tool is individual development plan for each individual, where you look at their strengths, their development areas, their applicable experience. So so IDPs, or individual development plans, are absolutely critical in nurturing growth. where they address skill gaps, they look at the past experience, and then including training, coaching, on the job training, all of that. Okay, so here are two tools which can be used in to identify talent and to do planning for talent. Can you see the screen here? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
The talent management sheet. Okay, so this is a 9-box grid, or it's also known as the 9 blocker. So on the x-axis, you have potential. You have potential over here: high potential, medium potential, low potential. And on the y-axis, you have performance. So does not meet expectations, meet expectations, and exceed expectations. So, and then it basically talks about what do you do for the people who fall in various boxes. So suppose somebody does not meet expectations in terms of performance, and somebody is low potential. So obviously, then you will say that if somebody is low on potential, low on performance, so that person probably can be exited. If somebody is, let's say, meets expectations on performance but is low on potential, then you could probably observe that person. And somebody who's very good on performance but low on potential, that person could probably be developed. Next would be medium potential. So people who are uh, low on medium on performance, or do not, sorry, meet expectations on performance but have medium potential, they could be observed. People who are okay with performance and potential is medium, they can be developed. People whose performance is very good and potential is medium, they need to be stretched. And lastly, the row on top, which is performance does not meets expectation, but the potential is very high. So somebody who may not be performing today, but their potential is very high, so you need to develop them. Somebody who is performing well, but their potential is even higher, these people you need to stretch. And last but not the least is people who are very high on performance and very high on potential. These are your top talents. Can you see the box top right? So this is your, these are the people you need to groom for the next level. Generally, when we are doing an appraisal, we talk about performance and we do not really factor in that much on potential. But a more evolved process would allow you to evaluate people on potential and on performance both. And this also, the 9 blocker also allows you to plan better, because here you can plot your people. And anybody who is, this is also known as the inverted L, because you can see this is an inverted L. So these people are absolutely critical for your talent management. They are your best bet and people whom you need to groom, you need to stretch, you need to develop. Okay. So this is as good as your biggest asset base in the company. Any thoughts on the 9 blocker? Any of your organizations using this tool?
In my organization, we use this tool.
Okay, very good, Saketu. So do you use it as an appraisal tool or as a planning tool?
No, we use this for talent management. For appraisal, we only refer to the performance part.
Okay.
which is management by objectives. So that's a complete separate process.
Okay.
Sir, how to this measure potential? Actually, performance we can measure. There are some KPI, but how to measure potential?
So in my organization, we have a competency framework of 12 competencies, and people have to fill in. They have to do self-assessment of that competency. Then the manager does the assessment, and basis that there is a score which comes. So that potential that becomes the potential score, and that combined with performance score, we have this 9 by 9 matrix where we map employees into.
But
So
it may be subjective because
it is subjective. It is not fully objective. It is some level of objectivity, but it is almost subjective.
So, Abhay, does that answer your question?
sir, this is theoretically means potential mapping. I have heard and read also but potential mapping, but um, uh, any objective tool is there to map. So I have not learned. I have not experienced anywhere.
Okay. So, to add to Suketu's observation, also another way to do it is there can be self-appraisal and there can be a sign-off by the immediate manager. Uh, in some organizations, they also have a panel which reviews the potential dimension of all the people who are being considered. And their immediate manager and rest of the panel led by HR calibrates on the observations of the manager. It is a tool known as TBDM or team-based decision making, and they evaluate the potential. Now, again, like Abhay said, that this is a subjective method of doing it. There is no objective method which is completely objective or number based. Like for performance, you have the KRA sheet and you have management by objectives and OKRs. But for potential, there has to be a bit of subjectivity. It is difficult to avoid. However, if you are looking at potential from a psychometric perspective, then there are tools like Hogan instrument where people can take an assessment and their potential comes out. But that is really in isolation and not in the business context. So sometimes when I work with somebody for a year, for 2 or 3 years, I understand their potential better rather than through an instrument. So therefore, that is rarely used. Generally, the method that Suketu mentioned, that is used, or the method which I mentioned, that is used to evaluate potential. So it is subjective. Abhay, does that help?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So this is one of the tools which is a very useful tool, and this is used extensively by some organizations. Uh, Going back, there is also, let's look at another tool, which is the succession planning template. So here you can see this is just a template, and you can change it whichever way you like. But the point is to note what is being covered. So here is the position, location, the name of the person, replacement ready now. Is there a replacement ready, or is the replacement going to be ready in 6 to 12 months, 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years? So therefore it's important that uh, you need to use this simple template, and you can have more columns added, deleted, to basically plan in terms of how you want to circulate the talent inside. Very often job rotation or growing people, it's not always vertical growth, but even horizontal movement at times helps grow people. So therefore, this template helps you in terms of planning better. And for every role, every critical role that you identify, which we talked about earlier, you can identify the right talent and also the time frame within which this talent will be ready to take over, and also the activities that they need to undertake to be ready for taking over. Any thoughts, any questions? So remember, it is your job to ensure, as as a HR team member, that this is done well. If this is done well, trust me, you will always sail through when there are changes of people leaving or moving to another role or getting growth. You will always sail through. But if this is not planned properly, then there is always a business risk which you are running. And if that risk becomes anything worse, then it will always be, HR which will be blamed. So therefore, this is an exercise, and we will talk more about succession planning in detail later. But this is a very useful tool to have. Okay, so moving on, let's do a short exercise. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so would anybody read this for me, please?
Sir, I can read, sir.
Okay, Abhay, go ahead.
A major hospital in the US state of Georgia called Health Hub had a reputation which had spread beyond the borders of the state. It was modern, however, not state of the art. It was expensive, but the services were fairly good, however, not exceptional. It was learned that a major chain of hospitals, Columbus, known globally, had decided to set up a state of the art hospital very close to the health hub. Initially, it would have only half the number of beds as health hub, but would add capacity down the next 1 year. Its services would be priced similarly, but would offer the best in class diagnostics and treatment. Health Hub was concerned that employees would leave once a new hospital being built nearby opened its doors. It commenced workforce planning and decided to hire an HR consultant to devise a talent development model, which would help the hospital retain its talent. You are the HR consultant. Please help develop a talent development model, which will help the hospital stem the loss of talent.
Thank you, Abhay. So what we need to do now is basically, uh, you can think in a group, and what would be the key actions that the health hub needs to take so that it will be in a better position in competing with Columbus, which is coming up next door. So, this is a brainstorming exercise. All of you can decide, who will take the lead, but you can just have a discussion. I'm, muting myself. You have a discussion and take 10 minutes, and then we will, discuss again. So you have 10 minutes, and then we can have a short discussion. So I hope it is clear to everyone what needs to be done. So Ketu, Abhay, Shivani, are you clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I am muting myself. Please have a free flowing discussion. You have 10 minutes. What are the key actions that you would recommend that Health Hub should take? Okay. So over to you. You need to discuss amongst yourself, not alone. It's a group activity.
So there is no discussion at all. Hello, hello.
Hi, is everyone done?
Hello, sir.
Yes, tell me.
Sir, we did not discuss in this group, but some points I observed that health club means employee of a health club as a consultant, boosting the moral of employee the most important because in each day there will be some challenge from external challenges, internal challenges. So what happens that each day new company is coming up and we have to face competition. So for raising commitment level of employee, first thing that we have to ask them that challenge is the greatest opportunity. That if there is challenge, then there will be more patient. Then if our services will be good, there is more chance to get uh, good business. So like in insurance, we once insurance was open to private sector 20 years back, there were so many exercises we did that if this we will face competition, there will be good chance of growth. So this thing should be inculcated in the mind of people implied, and thereafter some provision, monetary provision for better performance. Who will means if a employee will do exceedingly well, then some incentive, some reward system will be introduced for good services also, like that. So I am not able to describe a development plan, but some steps we can do.
Okay, thank you, Abhay. Yes, those are some important steps that need to be taken. I see that Yamini has raised her hand. Yamini, please go ahead.
Sir, based on this case scenario, what I understood is like giving the best facility to market the services of health club will be the major point, because if the employees have to achieve the target, they must have some tools and techniques through which they can achieve their targets and can get more patients inside. But after all, it is the monetary benefit which keeps us going, and not only the values and other services. We keep the monetary benefits in the first priority majority of the time. So for long term commitments, they should come up with some talent management models or compensation plans which requires longer term commitment, or something. They have to stay with the company for those benefits.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think you are right. Abhay is also right that these are some ways one can retain talent, in the face of competition. Because as we have seen that Health Hub doesn't have the best services, but it's expensive. And when Columbus comes in, they are going to be less expensive, but they will have, or probably same expense, but they will be having some of the best quality services. So people are likely to get attracted, and Columbus will also try to poach the talent from Health Hub. So therefore, Health Hub needs to have, more better ways of motivating their employees, then giving them additional incentives, then having long-term plans. You can have deferred income plans in the sense that that's suppose you stay with the organization for 2 years, you get X amount. You stay with the organization for 4 years, you get an X amount. So similar plans can be created innovatively. Anything else which comes to your mind? Yes, Yamini.
Sir, like improving the services of the health hub will be the major point here, because not only developing the talent help the company, because if you are giving the expensive services and not matching the standards of the competitors, then definitely it will be easy for the sales force and other employees to work there, because it is easy to achieve the targets at competitive companies compared to staying there. So you have to develop and improve yourself in these criteria also, because after all you have to sell the services, and if it is easy to sell at your place, they will be readily available.
Yes, Yamini, very good point that the it's not, another way of motivating your employees is when you realize that my company offers the best service, my company is the most competitive. That immediately motivates people. People feel more enthused and more motivated because they know that they are associated with an organization which is a high quality, world class organization. And that immediately motivates people. So, therefore, not only when they are improving and focusing on talent management, they also have to improve their products and services. So, that's a good point. Anything else?
Sir, one thing that monetary compensation means threat is also a good motivator. So if a competition is ahead now, so um, once employee take it as challenge, like that monetary incentive do not work always. And if there is growth potential, if there is more recognition, if there is more conducive employee friendly environment, there is more space for creativity, doing job liberty, then employee can be retained there. So they are having advantage that they are having existing customers.
Right.
So so if they will be means if there will be some motivation, then they can improve their services. And it takes time to for customer to switch over to new company. So therefore, in between, if employee improves, company improves its performance, then that will be a good opportunity to means retain employee, means to grow. Means what happens that if a new company, new hospital is opening up there, they will do some publicity job. So that customer will be attracted towards hospital services. So that will be additional advantage to existing hospital also. That if a person is coming for a treatment, then he will
Right,
come,
Aman.
he come to that hospital also.
Right, absolutely.
Sir,
Great. Yeah. Yeah, Yamini.
uh, sir, I don't know about the foreign health system, but what I have observed over here in my hometown, where I did the project at Wokhart, uh, mostly what they used to do is when why anybody comes to the Wokhart, only and only when their family physician refer them to Wokhart.
Yes.
So for them, not the patients are not the primary customers or target audience, but for them, the renowned physicians and renowned doctors of the uh, local area are the target audience, and what they just target them, they catch them. So uh, the doctor suggests the work hard. And then the second thing what they did is tapping the rural crowd. They are not so much educated, so health checkups and medical checkups, and so they convince them, they arrange the transportation and everything for them. So first, that I I don't know about this case, but if this is the scenario, they first have to check from where they can get their leads and strengthen their target and trust of their target audience.
Yes, absolutely. So very good points, Yamini and Abhay. Would anybody else like to add anything?
Sir,
Apart
just I want to put my view.
Yes, please.
Sir, sir, earlier this health hub was working in a monopoly market, and
Yes.
now there is a competition. So I think before developing a talent retention plan or talent development plan, I think the most important thing is to have a business plan like a customer attraction and customer retention plan. Because unless customers are retained and new customers are attracted, I think talent retention plan will have no use. So the business plan, business model has to be redesigned or restructured altogether, and it has to be leveraged with the talent development plan. Then only it will be useful and meaningful, I think.
Yes, it needs to go hand in hand. But even without that, there is what is in our scope is to ensure that people do not leave Health Hub when Columbus comes in. So therefore, how you ensure that, so therefore Abhay and Yamini spoke about, all the things, and you rightly mentioned that the marketing plan and the product plan has to be very strong so that the company remains, with all the customers that it has, with the patients who already believe in the Health Hub services. So great. I think those are good points. And the idea was basically to kind of have a discussion, and good that you came up with these points. So any other thoughts apart from this case study? Any other, anything, any other inputs, observations, before we close?
Sir, may we know your inputs or insights for this case? So,
Yes, sure. So, in this case, it's very important that Health Hub needs to have a proper talent management place. So, first of all, they need to identify who are their key performers, who are very critical to the company. So, they need to ensure that these people are identified, and they need to have a retention plan for those particular individuals. Next is they need to look at who are perhaps not critical, but at the same time, they're top talent or good performers. So all of these people, again, they need to be ring fenced with um, uh, a a plan which basically assures them of how their career will get shaped in the next 2 to 3 years. So like we talked about earlier, the individual development plan, they should have some sort of a career plan. And then third is you also look at individual development plan for all the identified people, so that you can invest in their growth, their learning, and they feel motivated that the company is recognizing us and investing in our development. So that is important. Now, why I am saying critical skills, why I'm saying top potential, why I'm saying important people and good performers and not everybody, is because when you are doing talent management, you have to be uh, critical in the sense that everybody is not talent. There will be the bottom performers in the company, and if you want to have an effective talent management plan, you should bake in the fact that the bottom performers should be allowed to leave. And if they go and join Columbus, then it is a problem for Columbus. But it depends on what kind of a screening mechanism Columbus has, that they may take the bottom performers, may not take the bottom performers. But for Health Hub, it is important that they focus on the top talent, they focus on the high potential and the good performers. And these people are retained with uh, a growth path, a learning path for the next 1 to 2 years, so that they are assured. Next is Abhay, and you also spoke about improving their customer service. Yes, that is a additional plus along with the talent management plan. They should improve their services, because currently they are expensive, but their services are not the best, while Columbus will be offering the best in the place, best in the market services. So therefore, they need to improve that. Third is they also side by side they need to look at targeting some uh, additional talent which will help them compete with Columbus and also grow to the next level. So therefore they should have some sort of a headhunting and targeted headhunting for some of the best talent in the market so that they are able to attract them and strengthen their talent position. So those are some of the actions which are recommended for a health hub to beat competition which is coming up in their place.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure. Okay, so thanks everyone for your time, and I hope you found the session useful. So we will now meet same time next week. Okay, so have a great week ahead, and we'll connect next Sunday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you. Bye for now.